Hello, and welcome to day 1 of Allow Yourself This Love. Day 1 is a relationship with God. Will you allow yourself the love of having an intimate relationship with God? Having a relationship with God. This is like a really important topic for me, and that's why it's number 1 in the days of this program. Because without a relationship with God, nothing else for you is important. You can chase after the clouds, but really you're never going to catch one and hold one. And that's what you're doing when you're pursuing a lot of other things other than God. Now, there can be lots of different forms of this search for God. You can be searching for love. You can be searching for peace. You can be searching for happiness. These are the core things that people want in life: happiness, peace, and love. But what isn't always obvious to most people is that God is the source of love. God is the source of happiness. God is the source of peace. There isn't other things in the world that can give these to you in a way that will satisfy you completely. You'll always be looking for the next thing. You'll always be wanting something different or something more, as opposed to when you find God, who is everything. How can you want more than everything? It truly is an experience of love, happiness, and bliss. So I really want to welcome you to your relationship with God. It's a brand new day. It's a day for you to really own what you want and your intention. And is your intention to reconnect with your source? Now, you haven't ever separated from your source except for in your beliefs. But it's time to really make a deliberate and intent effort to reconnect with what you think you've separated from. Now, nothing else in this world can make you happy except for this connection. And what's beautiful is in this connection, not only do you find God, you find your true self, your higher self, which is the voice for God who speaks to you so that you'll return to Him. All of spiritual seeking is aimed towards finding the love of God. Although it might take many different forms and many different practices and look many different ways, we're all looking for God. We're all looking for our source. And that's where all pain and suffering comes from, is for believing we're separate from our source, believing that He's not connected to us. It's like a child believing that their parents have just abandoned them. That's a really sad and painful thought, but it's not true. Usually what happens is our own judgments, our own grievances tend to separate us more and more from our Father in belief and not in reality, because we can't be separate from our source. But we can believe we are separate if we judge, if we place blocks up that will prevent us from being open to hearing the voice for God. Because what judgments really do is reflect on how we feel inside. So this is something personal for me, is that like I'll judge somebody, and then I'll be terrified of being held to those same standards, and I'll be terrified that I can't even live up to those same standards. And so it seems like a really vicious cycle to judge somebody else and then see how then it affects me internally. So it's much easier to drop judgments, and then what you have left, what's left within you, is just this open space to be exactly who you are. Completely self-love, self-forgiveness, and an open door to the love of God. Now, I know I didn't create myself, so I must have been created. And why was I created? God wants us to be happy, joyous, full of love. And He created us so that we could feel His love, so that He could share with us His love, His being, His essence, His happiness. Think about it. If you're God, and you're all-knowing and all-powerful, and you're infinitely everything, and you're loving, then what do you want to do? You want to share. You want to share the experience of being everything. You want to share the experience of being unlimited. You want to share the experience of love. And that's why God created us, to share his experience of love with his son. And I'm really, really grateful that we're able to experience the love of God. It's a beautiful gift that God has given us. I remember when I first really heard God's voice, for sure. I've been working at trying to hear the voice for God, my inner guide, for some time. And although I had moments of inspiration, of a direct kind of voice speaking to me, I hadn't really for sure felt like that. Something that I really felt I should be feeling if I was communicating with God and the voice for God. So one day I was sitting here in this very room, and I just became really quiet and came to God within with just love and gratitude. And I just kind of came completely vulnerable, just without any expectations, without any burdens on myself. And I sat for a moment, and this voice came from within me, how I felt it. And everyone will experience it differently, I'm sure. But for me, how I felt it was this voice that was almost just beaming from within me, that was comforting and calm and full of love. And I just wanted to sit with it. Once I said, "Hi, Father," and it responded to me like, "Son, I love you. I've never left you." I was just like, "Oh, never leave me." And he's like, "I never have." But that can be the tendency, is once we do connect with that voice, we want to kind of hold on to it because we're afraid it's going to leave. And guess what happens when you try and contain something? Then it just slips through your fingers, because it's not a containable experience. But what I did get from that experience, and what I did learn, was that that's really all there is. God isn't out there somewhere where we have to do a lot of work to find him. God is really within us in every single moment. Every single moment of our being is God present with us. And all it takes is just some time to quiet down, to really release your grievances, your judgments, anything that may make you think the moment isn't perfect, that God isn't completely loving all the time. Those beliefs need to go if you really want a clear connection with God. And once you do this, once you kind of come in a really pure moment to God, his voice will speak to you in a way that you're absolutely positive that it's him. Now, another thing that I mentioned in today's lesson that really helped me to be confident in my communication with the voice for God was I just wrote it down. I just write down my conversations. I write down what I'm hearing. And sometimes in that moment, the ego can be like, "Oh, that you're not actually hearing this," or "That's just you coming up with this," or whatever he may throw in to try and make you doubt what you're doing, what you're hearing. Well, when you actually write it down, and then maybe you come back a few days and read it, you're going to be like, "Oh my God, that's really amazing. That's really inspirational." And that really touches me. And so I know that was the voice for God. And really, you can start to dismiss the doubts of the ego. And the more that you do this, the more that you practice this, the less that the ego will chime in, because he realizes that he doesn't have any effect on you anymore. And who wants to waste time with something that doesn't have an effect, right? Just be you. Feel into the comfortableness of just being you. And God will come to you in that love, because he created you and he knows you. And he loves you. God loves you so much, with an intensity that he just wants to sear into you in the most loving, amazing way. So really try and give yourself the opportunity today to sit and allow yourself the love of God. You deserve it. You're amazing. He created you with all the love in the universe, all the love in infinity. He created you with infinite love. Allow yourself that love. God loves you. God, you're amazing, and he loves you. Just know that's true. Take it from me if you don't know for yourself yet. But really, he loves you. Now, your relationship with God is really the most important thing. And it's so important to your life, your happiness, and your peace, because God is the source of happiness. God is the source of peace. God is the source of joy. And if you want these things in your life, you really have to make a solid connection with God. Now, of course, we've never separated from God, but we have put up blocks to our awareness of God's presence within us with our judgments, with our grievances. If you really think about what our judgments and our grievances and our expectations are, they're really taking the will of God and grabbing it for ourselves and saying, no, this is what I want, this is how I want it, this is what I see, this is what I judge as unworthy, as not good enough, as not perfect, not good for me. These kinds of judgments really do put up walls between the love of God, because we're not trusting Him. We're not open to Him. We're not saying, oh, your will, I completely trust. I'm completely open to it. And I just want what you would want from me, God. And although those are some, in this world, some seeming big steps to take, you're definitely worth taking those steps to have a close, intimate, amazing relationship with God, which will bring you so much joy, so much peace, and so much happiness that you won't ever know how you could not have pursued this before. So I'm really glad to share this topic with you today. I really invite you to spend some time sitting alone, or at least in a quiet space. You know, it doesn't have to be a long time. I know I personally sometimes feel a little resistance come up when I am expected to sit for a long time in quiet. So just give yourself permission to just do 5 minutes. You know, you never know how that can extend to more and more time, but at least give yourself permission to take just a few, 2 minutes, even if it's a couple times throughout the day, to really sit and try and give God any grievances you may have, any judgments, any expectations about the day. Really try and give those up. Give them up to God and say, I trust you. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to be guided by you. And I'm here mostly to experience your love and your happiness and your will for me. So when you open yourself up like that to God, He's going to come to you in the most amazing, wonderful way that really resonates with you individually. Because it all kind of feels differently for each of us depending on what feels good and how we relate to God. So trust that. Trust that He'll speak with you. When you sit down today to do your daily practice, really have the expectation that you will hear God's voice. Have the expectation that you will connect with Him. Have the expectation that you will not fail. If you go in with that mindset and that goal, you won't quit until it happens. And when it does, it can totally change your life. I know when I was really certain that it was the voice for God speaking to me, I was like, oh, I'm going to carry this experience with me everywhere now. I'm going to really try, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm outside walking, whether I'm doing the dishes, whether I'm reading. I'm going to really hone into the voice of God, really try and quiet the judgments that might chatter in my mind, and really give Him the space to come to me. Now, I know this isn't always easy. It's not always easy to kind of quiet the mind. And you don't really have to effort at it. It really can just be your intention that you're coming to hear the voice for God. And if other things start chattering away, as soon as you notice that, just bring your attention back to what you're trying to do, what your purpose is. Another practice that really helps me is to really envision in your mind and imagine what it would be like to hear the voice of God, what it would feel like, how you would react, how amazing it would be to you. And really, when you have this image in your head, not that you have to limit what you do experience to that imagination, at least it's imagining it is starting to open the doors in your mind to allowing it, to making it reality, to really knowing inside yourself that it's possible. And those are important steps to hearing the voice for God. And really what I want for you is to really allow yourself the love of God. He loves you so unconditionally. And if you will just open yourself to that love, you can be amazing. Sometimes for me, what resonates for me is Father. Oh, it's my Father who loves me. Sometimes it's Mother. Oh, my Mother who just wants for me what's best, who's just looking out for me, who created me so that I would be happy, and that's it. Not so that I would struggle, not so that I would effort so much in just being, but so that I would be happy, so that I would feel her love and feel how great it is to just be. So, this is your invitation today to really allow yourself the love of God, to forget all the judgments against yourself that you may have, that you think you're unworthy of love, or you think that God did this, and all of these things to you, and so that's why you're not worthy of love. Or if you think I've done this, and this, and so that's why. They're not true. Nothing you have ever done, or ever said, or ever thought could block you from the love of God. It's impossible, because He created you so lovable and so loving, and He doesn't even see anything else. He doesn't see anything else other than the perfection of you. So trust that. Trust that when you sit down today to take some time with God, have a cup of coffee with Him, sit down. Sometimes I like at my desk to put an empty chair and I just pretend that I'm talking to Him, and all of a sudden the conversations and the inspiration just flow, because you're giving Him this space to be, and you're acknowledging that He is within you. And once you do that, He will come to you. He's already there within you, but you will allow the experience to come to you. You're the only one who's kind of blocking it. And once you put down your sword, once you put down your blocks and your fences, His love comes rushing in to meet you. Just like the prodigal son. We are the prodigal son. We may have left home with the idea that, we can do this better. We know better. I have my own judgments, and I know what I know, and I'm going to go give this a shot. But after we're out there for a while, and after we're doing it our way, and it's kind of really hard, and it's not working out perfectly, and it just seems like a really foreign experience for us, because at home, we were completely taken care of. We were given everything we need. We were offered just the complete love of God, our Father. And it's time for us to come home now. It's time for us to lay down our way of doing things, to come to ourselves and say, in my Father's home, my Father's house, I'm completely accepted. I don't have to struggle. And I can come home anytime, whatever I'm doing. I can lay it down and come home inside to the love of God. And just like in the story, the prodigal son, the father's love comes rushing to meet the son, because he's so happy to see his son come home. And that's the love that awaits you when you open yourself to God. So I really encourage you to do this today. Really feel into this message that I sent you. Read the words of the daily topic. Really see how it feels for you, what resonates for you. And really allow yourself the love of God today. Really allow yourself to have a relationship with Him. This is the beginning, and even if you've been forming this relationship for a while now, really let today be a day of real intention, of real purpose, that you are healing your relationship with God. And really it's the most important relationship you have, and the only one that will ever satisfy you. So isn't that worth it? Yeah, I think so. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so honored and so happy and so grateful. Can't wait for day 2, but let's really focus on day 1 today. Let's really focus on the relationship with God that you have already, but that you can open yourself to experiencing more fully. All right? I love you. Allow yourself this love. Let's go home together. We're holding hands, and the collective prodigal son is on its way home. So thanks for leading the way. I love you.